just happened. Joining me now is tonight's panel, Geoff Bennett, NBC News White House correspondent, Stephanie Cutter, former deputy campaign manager for Barack Obama, and Hugh Hewitt, host of the Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network, and of course an NBC News contributor. Geoff Bennett, I'm never surprised, but still can be a little shocked. I'm not surprised that that's, but as always, he said the quiet part out loud.
And it's almost a well-established ritual at this point. When the moment calls for President Trump to hew to the conventions and the traditions of the presidency, he does it up to a point. And so today we saw him read from scripted remarks. He said all the things you would expect a president to say. He called for an end to political violence in the American discourse. And then as his eyes and mind strayed from the teleprompter, he painted himself as the victim of political hostilities. He asked this rhetorical question, who has it worse than me? And then you saw there on the South Lawn, the president's Kelly O'Donnell, suggesting that he has no role to play in any of this. And we saw actually yesterday the White House, before this Florida man was even apprehended, we saw them telegraph what their strategy would be about this, to say the president is no more responsible for someone doing something like this than, say, Bernie Sanders was, given that the shooter in the congressional baseball field shooting was an avowed Bernie Sanders supporter.
But Hugh Hewitt, I find that to be actually a that's fine. I think that's accurate. But then the next step. Which is, you know what, some people may misinterpret my hyperbole.
Well, here's where I'm going to agree with the president and upset some in the audience. The piling on that went on yesterday, I was sick for most of the week, so I listened to a lot of cable. The insinuation that the president would like or encourage violence was omnipresent, and that would get to me as much as it would get to you. I have one standard. It's the standard that was articulated. Angry obsessives are dangerous, and they're in both fringes. And everybody in politics has to do whatever they do with a mind towards that angry obsessive. We see them at our rallies. And in fact, I see those vans everywhere, and I don't want to park next to those vans on the left or the right.
You never do, right? You're like,
whoa, get me six lanes over, please. But that's a part of our political landscape, and I think the president reacting there is very, very simply the honest reaction of someone who thinks he's been fingered wrongly for the male stripper, steroid-enraged crazy guy in Florida.
Is he being, Stephanie, it's hard for me to believe any other president would have acted that way. That's all. You may believe everything. He may feel all of those feelings. But still, you say the the inside part on the outside.
A couple of things on this. In terms of what Geoff said, he never gets to the point where he follows the traditions and conventions of how you expect a president to act. I think it's more than that. He never does the right thing. Regardless of what the traditions and conventions are of being a president, he never does the right thing. He never takes the road. There were two former presidents that were targeted with pipe bombs. I've worked for both of those presidents. I can't imagine either one of them not calling and checking on someone, making sure they're okay, showing empathy and concern. We got none of that from this president. And Hugh, I appreciate you're trying to throw everybody into the same bucket, but that's an impossible thing to do. This president has incited violence. He has, people at his rallies. He talks about punching people in the face. He throws people out. This is how we won the presidency. The politics of fear. There is no equivalent in the Democratic Party.
There is an equivalent. There's the man screaming at Mitch McConnell in the restaurant. There is Maxine Waters encouraging people
at a
which
restaurant
violates 18 U.S.C. 351. If we go back to the statute,
we can talk about that, but we're talking about the President of the United States. Are you saying you don't agree that this man has
one standard? Incendiary behavior by any public official ought to be held to the same standard.
I'll make sure that nobody screams at a Democratic rally, lock him up.
No, I'm talking about the guy in McConnell's face. What did you think of that, Stephanie? Should he have been arrested under 18 U.S.C. 351?
For screaming at Mitch McConnell.
And banging on the table and throwing his food.
I think it's wholly inappropriate. I think that nobody should act that way. But I think, you're right, nobody should act that way. That is a constituent or whatever you want to call him, not the President of the United States.
Susan Collins getting an envelope with rice in it.
Right, that's wrong.
It's everywhere. But I just want to say one rule.
But who do you think incites that violence the most?
I do not blame the president at all.
You don't blame the president at all.
Everyone uses this rhetoric these days, especially on cable channels.
No,
yes,
they do not. And don't you agree that there is a different standard for the President of the United States?
There is a different standard for the President of the United States, and I do believe that he hit it today and have been there with the young black kids who were all at the White House when he stood up and said that?
I'm going to play, actually, a couple clips from that. I'm going to play clip number 1. Take a listen.
We must never allow political violence to take root in America. Cannot let it happen. And I'm committed to doing everything in my power as president to stop it. And to stop it now. Stop it now.
And if that was the period, I think it would be a strong point.
However,
and then this happened.
I get attacked. I think maybe more. Maybe more than anybody. I don't know. I can do the greatest thing for our country, and on the networks and on different things, it will show bad. They will take it back. Figa's fake news. But they will, no matter what, if it's, I won't use examples. And today is just sort of a very special day because we caught somebody that hopefully that'll all pan out to be 100%, but it probably will.
Putting the bomb stuff in quotes this morning, he's got to change something.
You know, I thought that second quote was just perfectly fine. He's got an audience there of people that he's playing his regular songs. He's playing to the audience, and it's political season.
This is a good day to do that.
Election. I think what happens now is if the media continues to attempt to link this to Trump, that his hardcore supporters get harder and their vote turns out more solidly, and that if Democrats could control the networks right now, they'd walk away from the story as quickly as they could. Because if they pile onto the president as being in any way culpable for this angry obsessive, David French's piece again, they will add to his momentum.
Yeah, and that checks out. I mean, part of the reason why the president reacts the way he does in situations like this is not just because it's not in his sort of DNA to accept sort of the pastoral aspects of the presidency. He's not a I feel your pain kind of guy. But yes, you're right. He believes it works. He believes he's at political best when he's on the attack, when he's on the offensive, when he's doing battle with enemies, whether they're real or perceived. It just so happens in this case, one of his perceived enemies happens to be a news network that happened to be on the receiving end of one of these pipe bombs. So it really puts in stark contrast the way he reacts in these kind of situations.
I want to play for you. I mean, look, the interesting thing is the supporters and how hard and what is this, how is this going to play 11 days out. Some interesting sound. This is outside some supporters that we talked to outside of his rally today.
Just because somebody has a Trump sticker on their car doesn't mean they're a Trump fan. You know, he could turn, you know, it doesn't mean nothing.
Barack Obama probably sent his to himself, and Hillary Clinton probably sent hers to herself.
So you don't think this guy actually sent these bombs to these officials?
No, probably not.
Why?
They probably had it done. They may have paid him to do it.
There's radical people on all sides. There can be people that are problem creators. They create problems. Like people on the left can create them, people on the alt-right can create them.
I think I heard something about it being Bernie Sanders supporter. You know, there's so much news going on right now that people don't know what to believe, so they stick with what they know.
Well, let me go. To my friends in the conservative movement, he was a Trump supporter and he sent the bombs. There isn't any doubt, nor has there been any responsible Republican to say anything other than that.
Well, that's not exactly true, Hugh. I mean, there have been, over the last couple of days, lots of Republicans who have said that this is some sort of a hoax. And I want a
name of a responsible Republican who said
well, that. one of the president's sons was retweeting a lot of tweets who said that.
And there were a couple of them who were in the East Room for that event today, Candace Owens being one of them. Lou Dobbs on Fox News last night suggested that this was all a hoax. The president today on Twitter putting bomb stuff in quotes suggesting it was a...
The bomb in quotes goes to what Chuck was talking about in the first segment with our experts. The bomb talk, rather than go there. It's an explosive device. Bomb is explosive. I don't think anyone should underplay that the threat was taken for real in the White House. And in fact, what Ray said and Jeff Sessions said is what every responsible Republican said, which is we will find, prosecute, convict, and imprison for life.
Here's my final question then. If this incident isn't going... Here's what I'm concluded from this conversation. This incident is not going to actually tamp things down. It's going to make it worse. Does anybody disagree?
No.
Think it's going to get worse?
You know, I don't know that you can make it worse. The way that you can make it worse is for one of these bombs to actually go off, and that would be a real tragedy. And I think at moments like this, you really do count on your president to tamp down the rhetoric and tamp down the raw emotions across this country. Unfortunately, we don't have someone who can do that for us.
I think the feedback loop and where the